Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We've got a jam-packed show today. Another shocking commitment to Ohio State. On fire. Good God. And then we've got some amazing practice updates. Nevadabuck is back tonight. We're going to knock out a great show. Take your questions as always. We appreciate you guys being a huge part of our community. Again, love you guys to death. Our growth has been exponential. This offseason has been incredible. We really appreciate all that you guys do to spread the word of Buckeye Scoop. All of you guys that are on here each and every night. Appreciate you guys. Never take you guys for granted. Love you guys to death. Again, this is a blast. The highlight of my day. I kind of write the show all day with Nevada, go back and forth, build it out, and then I get ready to produce it at 7. But we just appreciate you guys always being a part of what we do and making this thing into an absolute monster that it's turned into. So if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell if you want to help us out in a huge, huge way. Apple Podcasts, please subscribe to our show on that, along with Spotify. We are growing our non-YouTube lines faster than we ever have before. Thanks to you guys. Keep spreading the good word. I posted on socials. Retweet that. Help us out. Again, we're trying to keep growing everything, spreading the word, because with this stuff, it's the more the merrier. The community is humongous. It's an incredible group of people. We love you guys to death. With that being said, gotta bring in Nevada. Nevada, you had a couple of wonderful days with your family supporting Phenom Buck. But how, this run of recruiting, this great spring practice that's going on, where do you want to start off at tonight?
Well, I think we got to start with Simeon Caldwell. You're talking about another top 100 kid, another safety out of Jacksonville, Florida, um, going with the Buckeyes, and it's getting to the point where every time you turn around, it's another guy committing to the Buckeyes that absolutely none of the recruiting analysts had on the Ohio State's radar. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy at this point. I was talking to a really good source on all things Ohio State recruiting, and he's of the opinion that Ohio State is recruiting at the highest level that it ever has. I mean, I'm not saying it's better than it's ever been, but it's never been better than it is now. And I thought Funky Buck had done a nice job laying out some comfortable truths, and one of them was talking about how consistent these classes have been with Ryan Day in terms of fourth, second, fifth, third, second, fourth. I mean, you do that when you lay great classes like that back to back to back to back, and then you add players that you should be getting from in-state, along with a lot of surprise top 100 players from across the country coming to Ohio State. It just shows you how strong the brand is, how much of a command on NIL Ohio State has, how much of a great reputation Ohio State has with their position coaches, with their coordinators, with their head coach, and how a lot of kids will play at Ohio State and they'll play for less because they know that at the end of the day, it's all about the NFL riches and who can provide you with the surest path to a high NFL draft pick. And right now, it's the Buckeyes, and frankly, it's not even close. So, yeah, just another great day, another great safety commit, and as we've mentioned here before, they're not done. They've got other ones, in the hopper to go along with this. It's shaping up to be a great offensive class, the headline by the offensive line, and a great defensive class lined up by these great linebackers that they're bringing in seemingly every other day. So yeah, great time to be a Buckeye for sure.
Yeah, I think that this is, I don't think it's an accident we're getting all these superstar safeties to commit here with the Caleb Downs effect. I mean, we've always had great safeties going back to, Mike Doss and, Will Allen, Malik Hooker. We've had a litany of really, really outstanding safety play, but Caleb Downs is different. Like, he's probably a top 5 pick next year when he comes out, top 10 pick. I mean, just because he's a safety, not a corner. But this is a guy that, these kids see what he does, and these kids want to be him. They want to be a guy that can, that has zero weakness. He can cover like a corner. He can play the run like a linebacker. He has the speed of an elite top end receiver. And he does it all with the mindset and attitude of a 10-year Pro Bowler, NFL Hall of Famer. I mean, he is a difference maker in recruiting. Again, I always give his parents a lot of props because, again, his dad was a great player. His brother is going to be a huge extension guy with the Colts, and he's a really good receiver for the Colts. But these safeties, again, there's always this thing of recency, especially with more modern kids. I think that there's a lot less allegiance to schools, a lot more allegiance to players. Um, this will sound really, really stupid and off base, but the video game coming back and having, JJ on the cover and Caleb is the 99, as dumb as that sounds, that won't hurt us. I used to hear this all the time back in the day when we used to have the game that kids loved playing as Ohio State because we had Terrell Pryor and Braxton Miller and, athletic, fast quarterbacks. So people would play as those guys. And then how'd you learn how to love Ohio State? Oh, that was my team on the game. Okay, great. So whatever, we'll take it, whatever it takes. But I think, when you've got this momentum, and again, the business of the NFL, the money that's at stake, the NIL, again, the development is just so critical. As great as NIL is and getting some money, if you go to the right program with the right coaching staff that's got this track record of just launching like a catapult, launching guys to the top of the NFL draft year over year at every position, you have to sign up for that. And I think that Brian Day, again, we talk about dynastic runs and Saban and all this, but I think he's really benefiting from the fact that there's some shaky stuff going down at Georgia, with the culture being, atrocious. Alabama is the weakest it's been in 20 years. The Florida schools are all a complete mess at this point. Texas is whatever. Dabo and Clemson, who were a juggernaut, 10 years ago, they've kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. I mean, this is the killing fields for Ohio State. We are the clear-cut number one program. The national championship is obviously the crown jewel. We had an argument before we even had the championship. We were the number one program even without it. But the amount of players we're putting into the league, the 15 combine invites, draft night will be another epic night for Ohio State over the first two nights when you're going to see a bunch of guys go first round, a bunch of guys go second round. That draft is going to be littered with Ohio State kids that have been shooting up the draft boards. You got to sign up for it. It's just too important. When you're looking at stability and you're looking at Ryan Day long-term extension, if you're a father of a kid who's a star, and you want him to be a star and you want him to be maximized and you want him to do it, in a good environment. Again, with football, there's always going to be some uncomfortable truths. There's going to be some hollering and yelling to get guys to kind of amp up and get their minds right. But I think Ryan Day does it in a really, in a very fair way. I don't think he's over the top. I think that he knows how to handle the modern kid, which is way different given the current transfer portal model. And if you say two bad things to a kid, he might just quit on you and leave. I think Ryan has, really mastered that, and he's doing a great job. And I think that the momentum in recruiting is just palpable across the board at this point. And I think that there's a real fear. I don't want to say FOMO, like fear of missing out, but there's a real fear that if you don't jump in the boat now, you might not have a spot. So you better jump in early and reserve your spot, and don't let them go down to the next guy and then he jumps and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I ended up at my second or third pick. Nevada, I mean, we've seen some good streaks in recruiting, obviously, over the years. But, I mean, to get this number of guys committed before we've even started the officials is crazy. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it is crazy. And, from an Ohio State fan's perspective, it's another data point. But, I thought the point that you brought up was such a good one because I hear it all the time from parents and I hear it all the time from agents. You're making these lifetime decisions about where you send your kid to go to school. Um, the, these top kids have the opportunity to create generational wealth for their entire families. And so, where are you going to risk that? That's the question. Yeah, you can go to the NFL from everywhere. Yeah, Larry Allen went from Northeast Alabama or Oklahoma State, whatever. Yeah, you can do that, but you're fighting the odds. So this is all. Math is undefeated, and where is the surest path for you to get there? Because do you really want to risk it? Do you really want to risk it on a coaching staff that could change? Do you really want to risk it on a culture that's shaky? Or, I mean, you want to find the surest path. And it's hard enough, as you well know, being a guy that was an All-American and an NFL draft pick and a guy that played in the NFL for years, it's hard enough just to do it, let alone to do it in an unstable situation, in a situation where the position coaches changed over, your head coach changes over or moves on or whatever it is. I mean, that just makes it doubly hard. So I think for these guys, Ohio State is really the benefactor of the fact that they stuck with Ryan Day. They reaffirmed their commitment to him. They're probably one of the biggest moments in the history of the school was after the Michigan game when Ross Bjork could have gone one of two ways. He could have said, we're going to move on, or what. I mean, that was the popular consensus of a large segment of the fan base, and I think that would have been applauded by a lot of people. This guy can't get us over the hump. We're going to make the tough decision and move on from him. Blah blah blah. But they didn't. They reiterated their support, which Ryan now remembers. Because he remembers who was standing with them when the thing was toughest. But boy, are we in a good position now with a head coach who's so young, with a staff that's so experienced and had such a track record of success, and a brand that's untarnished by scandal, untarnished by being the cheating school like Michigan, or the pedo school like Penn State, or you pick any one of these other schools in terms of where they're at. But I mean, we are just really in such a great spot. And as an Ohio State fan, look, it won't always be this way. And I'm not trying to forebode doom, but like it just nothing great lasts forever. But we are in great times right now. So as a fan, embrace it, enjoy every moment of it, because these truly are the best of times for Ohio State football. And 25, we're going in as the preseason number one, despite having we know our issues, we know where our holes are on our roster, but that's how much respect that Ohio State has in the football world. And boy, it is a great time to be a Buckeye, and thank goodness for Ross Bjork, Ted Carter, and Ryan Day. That's for sure.
I think that, yeah, again, I enjoy every year, every victory. I don't take it for granted, because again, that's the great part about life experience. And again, this is coming from a guy I've been all over the place in life, but it's like, I was on the staff when we went 6-7. I was there. I had to go into the film room on Sunday after another loss, break it down. So like, I don't think enough people remember that season, but I do, because I had to live it every day, and we had to pick ourselves off the mat after losing to Purdue and Miami, and just that atrocious season. So I enjoy every season. And plus, again, for people that are always worried about the next thing or the next year or who's going to be the next guy or what's the next quarterback going to be, like, you could be Alabama right now, and Alabama ain't looking too hot. I mean, USC not looking too hot. A lot of the teams that were the luminaries, Clemson, not looking too hot. So you better enjoy this. I mean, Michigan. Michigan, they cheated for 3 years, and they had the best stretch in like their history, and now they stink again. So I enjoy it all. Again, like the Ryan Day stuff was amazing by Ross Bjork, because again, we went through every scenario, because there was the Mike Vrabel crowd that, go get the Buckeye. And again, I know Mike Vrabel better than any beat writer, any reporter that covers Ohio State by a long shot. I worked with him for 2 years. Like, I was like, he does not like college football at all. So I mean, he does at NIL portal with Vrabes, no shot, especially when all of the winds of change were pointing to him moving back to New England and kind of resurrecting that debacle of a year that they had with Gerard Mayo as the head coach. So I just, there were some dumb people that were pushing that. And I was just like, guys, he's never coming to college ever, unless no NFL team will hire him to be a DC or a head coach. But I thought Ryan, with, again, the thing about Ryan last year is, like, I mean, we would have owed him $40 million if we would have fired him, $38 million or some crazy number. And I was like, so you want to pay that much and then go get a coach who's probably not as good as Ryan, and then you get to go watch Ryan coach at, Texas A&M or wherever, and be the guy. And I'm just like, why would you do that? Like, I mean, I was like, Ryan, and I always thought, and I've said this a billion times, you guys know, if Kirk's the athletic director, if Kirk's the owner of the NFL team, the number one thing I want in my coach is quarterback development traits. And Ryan is the best quarterback developer in the world right now. So again, I don't want him to go anywhere, because again, I've said it a billion times, the entire crux of the season depends upon Julian Sain. If Julian Sain can play at the level that Ryan Day expects his quarterback to play at, we're going to win another national title. If he doesn't, it's going to be a long year. Is what it is. I mean, this is what I mean, everything else is set up. I mean, our receivers are incredible. The offensive line, credit Ohio State. I mean, they put out more offensive linemen at one media day today than at any point in the history of media dumb, because they had, like, I think all of them got interviewed today. I mean, they had Jake Cook out there, who's a freshman from Westerville. Good on it. And again, I think that those guys should all be in front of the microphones, get used to dealing with the media, answer some questions. But this line is coming along. I give Ryan Day a ton of credit. And honestly, I give Ross Bjork a lot of credit for approving the budget for this coaching staff, because I said this when this happened, us having 3 big time offensive line coaches on one staff is crazy. Like, I've never seen anything like us having Tyler Bowen, who, again, a lot of people were a little stirred up, because he's the run game coordinator and hadn't coached line much, and he tight ends guy and everything else. But then they bring in, Marcus Johnson from Purdue, he's coached in the SEC at Mississippi State, played in the NFL. And they bring in Charlie Dickey, who was Mike Gundy's line coach for a long time at Oklahoma State. You've got 3 big time line guys. And again, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're coaching, 17 to 20 guys, however many guys we get with the scholarships and walk-ons, like, having 3 full-time guys is amazing, because you basically can cut up the line to have, the tackles go with one coach, the guards and centers go with another coach. You could probably double up it. Then you could probably send, like, some of the young guys down with a third coach. Like, those splits are great, because it's kind of like the student teacher ratio at, like, a really good school, private school, whatever. It's like, hey, we've got, 12 students to every one teacher. Like, that's a big deal, as opposed to being like 45 to one teacher. I thought that was amazing, because again, Ryan Day made a big point of it, how he's like, in the past, until they passed the rule where you could have infinite coaches like we have now, you could only have the O-line coach in the GA, which is what I used to be, coaching. But now you've got 3 line guys, and you have Toby Wilson. Toby's on staff as a GA or a analyst. I don't know. Again, I don't even know if graduate assistants exist anymore, because they don't really have to. Again, the differentiation is, and I'll just make this real brief, because I know this will make you guys glaze over, but when I coached, the only way that I could legally coach on the field was to be a grad assistant, which means graduate assistant means you have to be enrolled in grad school. I got my MBA. I'm the only Ohio State graduate assistant in the history of Ohio State football to get an MBA, because I said, if you guys are going to pay me $17,000 a year, I'm going to get the biggest degree I could possibly get out of it, and I did. But I think that those roles are gone now, and now it's just all full-time coaching, which is great, because I hated going to class after practice and missing film and missing stuff, because you had to go to class. They didn't have all online classes like they do now. So, but there was some very interesting stuff said. Ethan Onion was down 30 pounds, which is great, 335. I think Tyler Bowen and his cross training, I think that really comes down to figuring out the best 5, and does that include putting Austin Sauerveld at right tackle next to Tegra? I think Ethan Onion you could almost put it in ink. He's going to be our starting left tackle this year. We've paid him like he's going to be. Carson and ink at center. And then the other guys are who you have to kind of shake out and see who it is. Nevada, what are some things that you've heard and saw over the last few days about the offensive line for Ohio State?
Well, I think the story to me is really the kind of the ascension of the 2 portal tackles. And, we've talked about those being question marks, I mean, Ethan obviously being a little bit more sure than Philip Daniels. But I think those guys are starting to emerge as, in my view, as kind of the chalky picks for starting at tackle when Ohio State, when the bullets start flying for sure in the fall. Now, obviously, when you've got so many good players and so many really good players in the offensive line, there could be movement on that, and there could be platooning, and there could be guys moving left and right and wherever. But I think for me, gun to my head right now, I think those are your tackles. I think those are the guys they want to be the tackles. I think those are the guys that probably should be the tackles. But we have options, and there's just so many good players. You said I don't know how many guys they ran out to the media today to talk to, but like every time you turn around, there's another dude in the offensive line. And I think I said before, I think we go like 10 or 11 deep in terms of like players, like guys that could actually play at Ohio State on the offensive line. So it's kind of funny to me given all the conversations that we've had about the year about our lack of recruiting success, our lack of development, our lack of having dynamic recruiters in the offensive line room, and the problem not enough tackle. I mean, just there's never been a position that's been more maligned by the fan base than the offensive line over the past 30 years. You know, we have 3 decades of me doing this, and here we sit in 2025 with just gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of guys, and the recruiting is going up another level. It you know, seemingly under Tyler Bowen, and they're casting a wider net. He's being more aggressive, and more guys are jumping on. So I like I said, I don't know what to do with all these offensive linemen, because I really believe we could sustain, you know, a few injuries and still, you know, I mean, last year it was three, including two All-Americans, and we won the national championship. And this line may be deeper. So yeah, no, great news on the line, but I think the story is the ascension of the two portal tackles into the starting spots, and I think that's kind of how it's going to be going forward. But we'll see.
I I agree, and you know, it's always been maddening because I know Stud was the fat, lazy baboon recruiter, all I read about was how bad of a recruiter he was, and I look at the guys, how many guys he put into the National Football League that were good players, but how many? I mean, again, like Paris Johnson is kind of like ready, set, first round pick. But like, dude, Thayer Mudford straight to the league, went and got Nick Petit Frere, which again, Nick Petit Frere like knew Greg Schiano, but Greg Schiano was not like the lead recruiter. Again, this is something I love, debunking the stupidity that gets put out by other quote unquote recruiting analysts that don't really know what they're talking about. But like, Nick Petit, later I asked him, I said, did Greg Schiano, was he like the only reason you came to Ohio State? And he's like, no, he's a defensive coordinator. Why would I come to a school because of a defensive coordinator? You know, and again, like, was Stud some sort of whirlwind, you know, Twitter and texting and Snapchatting guy? I don't know. But I mean, I think Urban Meyer helped there. I think Mickey Marotti, I think Ohio State as a whole. Because again, it's the whole package. It's not just like one guy. But you know, DeJuan Jones, who's, you know, going on to year 3 in the league, and you know, he's had some horrible injuries in the NFL, but he's started and played well for the Browns as a pass blocker. So I you know, again, I've had the Justin Fry thing debate a billion times, where it's like he's bad recruiter, he's lazy, doesn't talk to kids, whatever. And I'm like, well, like last year he got a Seth McLaughlin, who again was and again, go back and quadruple check me. He didn't have any sort of SEC honors coming out of his junior year. He wasn't honorable mention all SEC. He wasn't second or first team. He was nothing. And then he comes here and he wins the Remington, which is incredible, to go from like literally zero preseason hype to being a national award winner is crazy. And then you throw in Josh Simmons, who's going to be a first round pick at the draft and one of the best tackles in school history. Like those count as like 5-star recruits to me, you know. And I know that we didn't get David Sanders, but again, a 280-pound guy that we have to give $2 million to as a freshman, I'm not really dying to do that, because the problem is he could be really good and then you got to pay him $5 million for the next year, or he could stink and he could transfer out after a year and then you're out $2 million. So again, I'm not into paying a freshman that kind of money. And again, you can say, Kirk, you're dumb, you're old fashioned, you know what you're talking about, but I'll go get Ethan Onianwa for half that, and he's already started 40 games, and you know he's an engineer major, so he's razor sharp, super focused. You know, I like getting a guy from a place like Rice who's got good tape. He's big. He needs to get in better shape, which Mickey will put his foot squarely up his hind end and get him in better shape, which he already has, got him 30 pounds lower. But this is, you know, give me that kid in his contract year. I mean, Ethan's at his contract year. And again, when draft analysts are saying he's a second round pick, third round pick in this year's draft, if he comes out, well, this guy came to Ohio State because he wants to be a first round pick. He wants to be called on draft day, walk across the stage. Could he do that? Sure. He's big. He's a freaky athlete, big athletic dude. You know, you get Mickey in there, get him going against CJ Hicks every day, get him going against Caden Curry every day, have him put in, you know, Big Ten film. Because again, when you're at Rice, like the biggest thing you're gonna, they're going to ask you about is your level of competition. I mean, he'll play Texas or he'll play one big school. I think he played Texas last year or 2 years ago. But other than that, you're playing lower level Division I competition. But you're in the Big Ten, man. You're playing you're playing Texas. You're playing Michigan. You're playing really good defensive players, and that'll help him. And again, I think that getting in this culture, I think winning is intoxicating to these kids, especially when they've never tasted it. When you're at Rice, you're getting, bludgeoned every week. That gets old fast. But here he's going to have a chance to beat on some guys and really do a good job and play next to Luke Montgomery, who I think is going to be a terror inside at left guard this year. Carson is the best center in the country coming back. If they put Austin Sarver, like again, if you put, gun to my head at this minute, I'd say it goes Ethan Onianwa, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Austin Seyerveld, and then I think I have to go with Philip Daniel at right tackle. But the second configuration, because again, Tegra is coming on, and I've been hard on Tegra, but he knows that this is a really competitive room, and there's only 5 starting spots. But you put him at right guard and put Austin Seyerveld at right tackle. I don't know. That's going to be the thing that's interesting, because Austin's a rare dude, man, because most guys have trouble playing left and right side. It's not even as much playing guard versus tackle as playing left and right. I mean, that's tough. But Austin does it really well, and he did it all year. And he reminds me of Jack Mehort. Jack Mehort could play every position. Jack is the unicorn's unicorn because he could play all 5 positions, including center. And he was every spot we put him in, he was our best guy. So we ended up putting him at left tackle. But Jack was a different cat because most guys can't do that at all. So, but yeah, really excited about the development. The cross training, I think, is interesting because, when offensive line coaches want to cross train, I totally understand that. But I also like the fact that he has Ethan Onianwa just playing left tackle, because he's learning the offense, and cross training sounds great. It sounds sexy. It's like, hey, we want everybody to play everywhere and shake it out. But it's like, you got to have like your pillars of granite at certain spots where they can just get as many reps. Because like I said, I only played right tackle, and again, I needed every rep I could get at right tackle. I wanted to be as good as I could be at right tackle. I wanted to be an All-American right tackle, which is what I was, and that's great. Like, I didn't have to go play left guard and center and everywhere else. Now, did that hurt me when it came to playing in the NFL? Absolutely. And that's one thing that Tyler Bowen and Ryan and these guys are seeing is like, you've got to have, guys play both sides in both positions, because in the National Football League on a given game day, on a Sunday, there are 7 offensive linemen dressed. 7, the 5 starters and 2 backups. That's it. At Ohio State, they've got like 15 guys dressed. So whole different ball of wax. So the 2 backup guys have to, you got to have a swing tackle and then a guy that can play the 3 interior spots in general. And if you're a guy that can play all of them, God bless you. You're like a human utility knife that they will absolutely love. Nevada, any other thoughts? And we can dig into some super chats.
No, it's just great to have so much depth. That it's great to be, have the flexibility of having guys. Like you said, it's nice to have flexibility. It's nice that we don't have to have that flexibility out of just complete need, because we need another guy out there, but more because we're trying to just cross train them and get them ready for the next level, get them ready to get more familiar with all the spots. But I mean, look, some of the younger, we talked about Ian Moore, we've talked about Josh Padilla, some of the younger guys. I mean, I love those guys. I just, they just haven't had the chance yet because they've got other guys in front of them. But if they get the call, I really believe that they're going to be able to ball out. So yeah, it's deep. We've got depth at every position, and that's what you really need in this new expanded playoff era, because the seasons have never been longer and never been harder, and attrition on the offensive line is going to happen in one way, shape, or form. But Ohio State's got enough depth to handle whatever comes in 2025, and that's a great luxury to have.
Yeah, and I think with the attrition, it also counts the portal. I mean, if you lose a guy or two, maybe they're not. And again, I'm not projecting anybody to leave, but let's be real. I mean, there's going to be someone's going to leave, just because that's how it always works out, and Ohio State's not immune to that. But I love the depth we're building, and the ability that these guys are showing to play a lot of spots. Because again, and this is something that drove me crazy in 21, when the lesser astute and some of the dumber beat writers that cover Ohio State would talk about us playing 4 tackles when we had Thayer Munford playing guard and we had Paris Johnson playing guard, which again, 2 tackles. Obviously, Paris is going to make $200 million as a tackle in the NFL. But that one year, we had to put Nick Petit-Frere at left tackle and DeWand out at right tackle, and we had to get the best 5 on the field. So you had to have some guys playing some wonky positions, but it worked out. I mean, Thayer ended up being a first-team All-American left guard. Nick Petit-Frere was an All-American left tackle. Paris was second-team All-Big Ten. DeWand was second-team All-Big Ten. Luke Whippler was, I believe, honorable mention All-Big Ten. So that was the best configuration, because the other configuration, if you wanted to play a true guard, was to put Matt Jones in and leave Thayer out, which you couldn't do because he was a 5th-year senior captain, Blocko recipient, or Paris Johnson out. He's a top 6 pick in the NFL draft. So again, sometimes guys got to play where they're needed to play. It might not be where they want to play. It might not be their best position, but when you've got 5 NFL guys, you got to figure out how to get the 5 NFL guys on the field, even if that means bumping Matt into a reserve role. And Matt Jones that year was also honorable mention All Big Ten. And again, the 2021 line, from an award standpoint, is the most decorated offensive line in Ohio State history, because we had 6 guys get All Big Ten mention, that'll never happen for the rest of our lives, I don't think. Because you don't normally have a backup get an honorable mention All Big Ten, but we did. And we had multiple All-Americans on that line, because you had to get DeWand in the game. DeWand was too good to be sitting on the bench, and so they were able to move guys around. And Thayer Munford did the most selfless thing I've ever seen, a lot like Donnie Jackson, where he switched positions for the betterment of the team, because Thayer was much more comfortable playing left tackle. It's where he played the year before. But he took one for the team and slid into guard, which, he hasn't really played guard since. He plays tackle in the league now too. But he did it for the good of the order. So again, sometimes when you're an offensive lineman, you have to go play somewhere where you might not want to play, but it's for the best of the team. All right. We have a couple of super chats popping up, so we'll get into these. Any final thoughts about it before we get into these?
No, I mean, look, unselfishness is kind of the hallmark of the offensive line. Love being that, but hopefully we don't need to lean on that this year. But that's all about your culture. It's about guys that are willing to put the team above themselves, and we saw that on full display last year with Donnie Jackson, and I'm sure called upon they to do it. But that again speaks to the culture that Ryan Day's built on the team in general and on the line in particular, and it's great to see.
All right, D. Sonny, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Do you think agents will push kids to schools like O State, even if they pay less, with the idea of the NFL checks coming in if they're developed? That's a great question, D. Sonny. Nevada, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that from them. I mean, for agents, it's all about lifetime earnings. It's not about making a little bit on NIL or a little bit on this or a little bit on that. I mean, the big money is all about the NFL. It's all about that second contract in the NFL, and how quickly can you establish yourself, and can you establish yourself? So, I mean, I've literally heard that from some of the top agents in football, how important that is and how good a job Ohio State does of preparing them. So that's not a theoretical thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about from firsthand knowledge. That is absolutely something and a big reason why Ohio State's enjoying so much recruiting success.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, these agents, you remember an NFL agent makes 3% commission on whatever the contract is. So if a guy signs for $100 million, they get $3 million right off top, off of the gross, not the net. I found that out when I was a player and I had to write that check, and I was like, well, that sucks. I got to pay all these taxes and I have to pay you too to negotiate a slotted contract. But yeah, I mean, I think that, the agent thing has never been slimier. It's never been greasier. It's amazing because these kids are in high school now and they have agents, and they're getting paraded around the schools, and agents are sitting in the recruiting visit meetings now, and they're talking about development, talking about NIL, talking about opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if you're going to plant the seed somewhere, you might as well plant it where it could bloom and blossom and really take off. And that's what Ohio State's done. And again, if it's my kid, if my kid's some offensive tackle and I'm looking around and it's like, well, this school offered me, this much money, and It's more than Ohio State offered, but Ohio State's got Mickey Marotti and Ryan Day, and they've put Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones and all these great, Josh Simmons went from, being a very, very, very athletic player, good player at San Diego State to being a first round pick. Like, I mean, do you think Josh Simmons, when he's a first round pick, is really going to care about he took $100,000 less to come to one place over the other? No. I mean, these guys will look back and say, "Man, I can't believe I was debating between this school or that school for that little amount of money." When, those guys will make that every week when they're signing NFL deals. I mean, just how those contracts are split up. So, I think that it's shrewd by the agents because, if you send a kid to some cesspool of an organization that doesn't have stability, I mean, it's almost like you're flushing your investment down the toilet. You come to Ohio State and Ryan's got a long-term contract, which is great. Mickey Marotti is happy making over $1 million a year. Because again, I want a great strength coach, great head coach. And the rest of the guys are going to shuffle in and out. Like, I mean, do I think Tyler Bowen will be here in 3 or 4 years? No. I think he'll be a head coach. I think a lot of these guys will be, kind of swirling around to be where they're meant to be. Again, that's just the nature of the coaching game. Especially with how hot Ohio State is now. Like, I mean, these coaches, like a guy like Justin Fry going to the NFL, where there's a bidding war between the Chicago Bears and Arizona Cardinals for his services, and he's making a bunch of money now. Like, I think that, Justin had to take that step to be able to become a head coach because he wants to become a head coach. He wanted the Indiana job, his alma mater. And I think that, like, when you add that NFL thing, because Justin has no NFL experience at all. Like, he didn't play. They had never coached there. So now he's got that as kind of another thing to check off the box when he's, applying for head coaching jobs, that I've got NFL experience, that plays great in recruiting, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I think that, these agents want to send these guys to, it's no different than when they go to combine training and they go to Exos or some of these big time training facilities. Like they send them to places where there's a known systematic pattern of excellence. Like, again, you send a kid to Ohio State, it's not going to be roses and cupcakes and fun. It's going to be, you're going to grind. And again, that's the thing about Ohio State is, like, as great as Ryan is and as well spoken as he is, like, I mean, they kick the crap out of these kids in a good way. Again, this is just like getting your body right for some sort of competition. Like, it's hard. It's really hard. And that's why guys like Ethan Oniano will lose 30 pounds and, he'll be they're going to run him to death in the summer because that's what they do to these big guys, just to make sure that they're, when they hit that field in August for camp, they're going to be in great shape, best shape of their lives in all likelihood. So I think it's a great move by the agents, and keep the good players coming. James Hammond, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you. Rumor on the street is the coaches want Julian saying to be much tougher. Is there any truth to this? Is this worrisome? I don't know what street we're on. I don't know. Maybe they want him to be tougher. They probably want all the players to be tougher, honestly. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, you don't know how tough a guy is until he plays quarterback at Ohio State and the Boo Birds come out and see if he's a wimp or if he's a tough guy. I mean, if you're going to play quarterback at Ohio State, you automatically have to be a tough guy. Because I've seen quarterbacks that I know and played with that just wilt under the pressure. It's like a hot knife versus butter when you watch some of these guys. But the guys that are great, they got to be tough because, again, our fans are going to be unmerciless, and there's going to be moments of growing pains just because this kid's never started a game in college. But that just kind of is what it is. Nevada, your thoughts? James Hammond, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my dude. He says, rumor on the street is the coaches want Julian Sand to be much tougher. Is there any truth to this? Is this worrisome?
I mean, I'm not worried. I mean, I love Julian. I have a lot of confidence in his ability, and the toughness thing is always one of those interesting things. There's physical toughness, there's mental toughness, there's all sorts of different levels of toughness, and some guys all manifest it differently. JT Barrett was one of the toughest, if not the toughest guys to ever play the position. Will Howard was plenty tough. We've had tough guys in a lot of different ways, but I think Julian's fine. He's young, he's untested, he hasn't had to deal with the hot cauldron that is being the quarterback at Ohio State, and like you said, the fan base is not. They don't have a lot of patience. They're not particularly endearing on stuff, especially when you're working your way through as a first-time starter. but I'm sure he'll be fine. So I wouldn't really worry that much. I know there's a lot of negative stuff out there about Julian saying right now. Um, I, I, it was last year at this time. Will Howard was third string, couldn't play, and was terrible at Ohio, and was a big colossal mistake. And why did Ohio State take him from Kansas State? And what an error they had made. So and how could they have gotten rid of Kyle McCord? And we all saw how that turned out. So I think Julian Saint is going to be just fine.
Yeah, again, I don't. That's why like spring is just so. There's not a grain of salt big enough for the stuff that you hear in spring, because I think spring is hope springs eternal during spring, and guys can be amazing, and this guy's going to be a factor, and this guy, Jaden Ballard's going to be the deep threat, and killing some walk-on corner and running past them, and oh my god, I can't wait to see this in the fall. And then guys don't play, or like Will Howard last year, when again, the Will Howard arc is the greatest arc in the history of Ohio State, because I was excited to get him, because again, I watched him play against Missouri, who waxed us, with a makeshift offensive line where they didn't play Carson, which I thought was stupid. And then with Lincoln out there, because our quarterback Devin Brown got hurt, and then you got Lincoln out there. Lincoln doesn't know the plays, disaster all the way around. And I watched Will Howard play against those guys. I was like, God, he looks pretty good. I mean, because K-State's guys aren't anywhere near as good as ours, and he was. I don't think that they won that game, but it was real competitive. It was like a 3-point game, and it was a shootout, high scoring game. I was like, he's pretty good. Then I hear the crowd that says, well, he couldn't beat out some freshman kid and not any good. And I'm like, well, somehow he won the Big 12 title and beat Texas. So, I mean, you got to be doing something right with Kansas State talent. Then he gets here, and I don't know. Devin Brown might beat him out. He's pretty good. I don't know. Like, I mean, Julian Sainz here, and he's a true freshman. And I was like, with Will Howard and these guys that can run, and I'm like, well, they can't run him in the spring. And then we get to the season, and he's just fantastic, and he wins a national title. And I was like, the gut on this is that, Julian Sain is going to be really good. Again, Ryan Day, he bulleted Aaron Nolan. Aaron Nolan was here for, 2 weeks, and then he did not have a very good start to his career at Ohio State. And Saban retires, Julian gets in the portal. We go all out to get him here, basically knowing that that's going to push Air out the door. And Ryan, again, if in doubt, trust Ryan Day. And again, if you guys don't trust Ryan Day at this point, I have no idea if you ever will. But, with Ryan, like, if it's quarterback evaluations and, upsetting the apple cart to get the right guy, which he did to get Julian Sain, I'm good with it. Because again, like, Ryan's forgot more about quarterback play and evaluations and mental and all that than I'll ever know. So again, like, if I'm not the expert in something, I just tail the real expert, which is Ryan. So that's just that's my life at this point. Like, if I don't, I can evaluate offensive linemen, defensive linemen, front seven guys, running backs, quarterbacks, where there's a lot of different stuff you have to go through. I just trust Ryan Day. And Ryan Day will never not have a great quarterback. I mean, even the quarterbacks that leave here, like Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers, they're both going to be second round picks in the draft. So I mean, he's got 3. I mean, if Will Howard goes second round, like the latest ESPN mock draft has the New Orleans Saints taking Kyle McCord, or excuse me, taking Will Howard in the second round. Ryan Day could have 3 of his scholarship quarterbacks go in the second round of the same draft, which is crazy. So again, I trust his evals better than anybody on the face of the earth when it comes to quarterbacks. Dev, what's up, brother? Thank you for the deuce. You wrote Con 3. Devin he hates On 3, man. It is so funny. But yeah, on 3 is kind of, I think that they might have done the Julian saying is soft at a snowflake or whatever. But again, I don't read their stuff. They're not even really relevant. I'm surprised they're still in business at this point. But Nevada, any thoughts on my Julian saying rant and why I don't really care about spring football?
Yeah, no, I think you just can't take too much away from it. And we've said this many times. It does bear repeating. Ohio State has a vested interest in pumping Lincoln Keenos right now and making him believe that he's got a great chance at the starting job. because they need him to stay through the next portal window and into the fall. So, and take anything you hear, read, whatever, with a grain of salt based on that. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a shot. That doesn't mean he can't play. But they need him to be here, because if he leaves, it's Davian St. Clair's the backup in a 16, 17 game season, and that's mildly terrifying.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, this is going to be one where every word out of Ryan Day's mouth is that the competition is far from over, and Lincoln's had a fantastic spring, and it's got to go deep into camp, go to the third week of camp before we name a starter, and because you got to keep Lincoln here, man. Lincoln's the amount of leverage that Lincoln Keenholz has over this program is wild, because you can't not have a second veteran quarterback in the room when you've got a team that's built to win a national championship this year. Mello, the other half of the Buckeye boys, back to back. Thanks, brother. Thanks for the 5. Braylon Womack commit watch. We are safety U, baby. We used to be OSU. Now we're just safety U. But yeah, I can see that happening pretty quick here. We got some Funky Bucks been killing it with that. Helping Technician actually put a nice little nugget up about that last week. Nevada, your thoughts on Braylon Womack, another superstar safety? I mean, this could be the best safety class we've ever gotten. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it could be the best safety class anybody's ever had. So yeah, he's definitely on commitment watch, and we think that's going to happen sooner than later. So stay tuned.
Yeah, super, super excited about that. All right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up so you can go off into the night and get some dinner.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I love the fact that Ohio State has scored another massive surprise top 100, and I love the fact that their money that they're spending on the portals seems to be well spent, because both those guys are kind of ascending into the line position. So Ohio State pushing all the right buttons. Ryan Day really kind of getting it on, and the great spring football practice of 2025 continues on.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, another great show. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys follow the Buckeye boys. Devin did a great job filling in last night. Appreciate you, my dude, and also Mello. You guys do an awesome job. I believe they went before this. They interviewed G. Scott Sr., so make sure you guys check that thing out. So again, as always, appreciate you guys so much. Give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, we're growing that thing like crazy. Thanks to you guys. But we just appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do. Should have some news potentially on a meetup coming soon. So I'll keep you guys in the loop for that. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. See you tomorrow at 7:10. Go Bucks.